Feed your fervour. Hello, I'm Malcolm Cox and welcome to Tuesday Teaching Tips, and thank you for joining me today. And we're taking a third look at Apollos. Amazing, awesome Apollos. Last time we talked about how he was self-motivated, and the time before that we talked about the fact that he was very learned. And we're going to look at a few more things in some upcoming videos as well, so stay tuned for those. If you haven't had a chance to watch or listen to the previous recordings, I'd encourage you to do so, because Apollos is amazing. We learn so much about him in actually a very small number of verses in the New Testament, and I think he's a tremendous model for any of us who preach and teach. Today we're going to look at his fervour, as it records it in Acts chapter 18. It says that he had great fervour in what he did. In fact, specifically it says he spoke with great fervour in Acts 18 verse 25, and he spoke boldly in the synagogue in verse 26, and he vigorously refuted his Jewish opponents in verse 28. Three key words there that tell us a lot about his attitude and his heart. Let's look at these three words in turn that describe him. Firstly, that he was fervent, zeo, to boil, to be hot, to be fervent, ardent, and zealous. The same word used in Romans chapter 12 verse 11. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour serving the Lord. He was a zealous man. And then the second word, translated boldly, is parresiazomai, or something like that. I'm sure I've pronounced that wrong. Someone can correct me. Anyway, it means to speak plainly, freely, boldly, and confidently. We'll talk more about that in a moment. And the third word, translated vigorously, I think, yes, is the word eutonos, which means intensely, vehemently, and strenuously. So here is a man who is hot and boiling over and confident and speaking plainly and strenuously and intensely. This is someone who had passion. If we're going to be preachers and teachers, we've got to have some passion. It's got to be meaningful to us about what we are speaking, or else it won't be meaningful to those to whom we are speaking. So three things I learned from Apollos here I'd like to pass on. Firstly, his passion took him into hostile places. If we have passion and fervour, it will take us into places where perhaps it's a little bit scary. He goes into the synagogue. If you know anything about the book of Acts, you know that synagogues were not safe places for Christians after a while. The Apostle Paul got stoned, he was thrown out and beaten. That's where Apollos went. He was boldly going into the synagogues and speaking with great fervour. He vigorously refuted his Jewish opponents in public debate. Public debate is a scary place to be. I don't enjoy that kind of situation of being challenged publicly. I dare say you don't either. But because of his passion, he was prepared to go anywhere he could, anywhere he needed to get the message across and to help people. So we see that his passion took him into hostile places. Secondly, we see that his passion helped him to win the day. Not that he was in a fight exactly, or not that he was trying to win in some competitive kind of way, but it seems to have won the argument, as it says in this passage, that because he vigorously refuted those Jewish opponents, it encouraged the people who by grace had come to believe. So there's some kind of way in which his passion was tremendously helpful to the people who believed. There's something about that helped him to win the day. We need vigor to persevere and push through in tough situations and help people to come to believe and strengthen their beliefs. And thirdly, we also see that his passion was not just unique to him. It was characteristic of the most effective church planters and speakers of the early Christian movement. Going back to that word we were talking about earlier that I can't pronounce, parresiazomai, we also find that word used in Acts 13 verse 46 when it talks about Paul and Barnabas answering them boldly. That's in chapter 13. And also in chapter 14 verse 3, Paul and Barnabas spent considerable time there speaking boldly for the Lord. Paul, Barnabas, Apollos, all speaking with that same spirit. It was characteristic of those early Christians. Why should it not be characteristic of us, preachers and teachers today, that we have that zeo, that we have that parresiazomai, that we have that eutonos, we have that vigor, we have that fervour, we have that heat, that boiling over. It doesn't mean we shout. There's lots of different ways to express it. It's not necessarily about volume, but it's certainly about an inner passion that expresses itself as a courageous expression of speaking and convincing, convicting, and encouraging and inspiring people so that they can believe and can continue to believe. So I wonder what you think about this. What helps you to be passionate? What does it mean to you to be passionate? How do you express your passion in the way that you speak? Let me make an appeal to myself as much as anybody else. Let's not bore our hearers. One of the saddest things is to see people sitting in church bored. And that could be for more than one reason, but let it not be that we lack passion. We're in control of that. I'm in control of my passion. I'm not in control of all the circumstances when I speak, when I preach, when I teach. I'm not in control of how well I am, how I feel, the heat of the room, the attention of the audience in terms of how tired they are. But I am in control of my passion, my fervour, how vigorous I'm going to be. And so I pray that I and you and all of us may at least take inspiration from Apollos to be fervent, passionate, boiling preachers and teachers for Jesus Christ. What helps you? I would love to know. So please leave a comment anywhere you hear or see this recording. Leave it publicly so that we can learn from each other, because we do learn best when we learn in community. If you know someone who might benefit from this, please pass it on. Hit the bell, hit the subscribe button so that you'll be notified about further recordings. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or some similar application, then please do leave us a review, and that will benefit others because they'll be able to find the podcast more easily. Thank you so much for your attention and for listening and watching. And I do pray that you have a terrific Tuesday and a wonderful week. Take care and God bless.